I don't do well behind podiums. So a year ago, I was standing on the Omaha beach on the Normandy coast of France with my mom. We were on this 10-hour-long D-Day tour, and it was about 60 degrees, maybe 55. The wind was blowing like crazy, and the rain was flying sideways, and we were kind of like huddled up in our raincoats like this, like trying to stay warm and survive. And the tour guide was pointing up to the cliffs and talking about the exact position of the German artillery that were firing on the soldiers that day, the anniversary of which is tomorrow. My grandfather was almost one of those guys. No one knew how that day was going to turn out. And no one on that beach knew if they had minutes or hours or days or decades to live. And yet we look back on that day as this day of great triumph, and the whole war was such a triumph for us that we got through it, and it was a success, but we didn't know at the time how it was going to be. And I thought about how I'd feel in that moment if I wasn't sure if I was going to live or die, or if success was going to be imminent or not. And I think leadership is like that, which is why I'm telling you that story. So before I signed up for Leadership Winston-Salem, I wanted to do some psychic unpacking about what I believed about leadership. And it wasn't very pretty. See, for a long time, I really avoided being a leader because being solo is so much easier. And I didn't want to have to supervise or manage anybody. That seemed really hard. But then I started writing, and I started getting responses about my writing. And then I started teaching, and then I started talking. And suddenly I was up in front of people, and I realized I better get clear about what it meant to me to be a leader. So I started this unconscious unpacking. And what I found was words like dominance and control and manipulation and the word boss. And I didn't like any of that because that's not who I am as a person. It's not how I want to show up in the world. So the first few days of Leadership Winston-Salem, I wasn't sure how it was going to be. And I was kind of nervous because we're a city of big important name people who have built this city, and I didn't know who was going to be there. So of course the first conversation I had was with Richard Brenner. But it was like a month later, and I was driving down I-40 and I saw the hospital and I put it together. So that was a good moment. But then I met Jen Casey, who sat at my table that first day, and she hugged me, and she hugged me spiritually. And then we did this activity with these dots, and we had to lay them on the ground and make a bridge and walk, and it was really hot, and we almost came to blows because we were so frustrated with each other on this team building activity. And then right after that, I plopped down at a picnic table with my boxed lunch next to Jason Sloan. And in about 3 seconds, we were having this deep conversation about God and soul and the purpose of life. And I thought, this is my thing. I'm in the right place. And then there was Jim Flynn, who had this amazing exuberance the whole day. He had so much fun, and I just loved that. And I thought, I like these people. This is going to work for me. And I read some of the quotes that some of my classmates said about Leadership Winston-Salem. Tejado and Jenny and Gloria and Carol Atwater. And all the quotes were about how it made us feel and how it made us grow to be a part of this process. And so as I still continue to define leadership for myself, I have to cheat a little bit and borrow from one of my favorite teachers and writers, Brené Brown, whose recent book, Daring Greatly, which I highly recommend, quotes from Theodore Roosevelt. And she quotes, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man or woman who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So this place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." And so if leadership means anything, it means this. It means going first. Not to win, not to conquer. With your heart in your hand, and with great fear and trepidation, and not knowing the outcome, but knowing with absolute certainty that it's entirely worth the effort. And leadership is showing up to life and knowing it's about more than a paycheck or promotion, but it's about reaching the highest potential that we can reach in this lifetime. It's about reaching our growing edge and pushing past it into that fear. But most of all, for me today, it's about us. It's about you and me. And how in this wildly divergent community of people, somehow we find that we fit perfectly together.